Hi everybody. So today we'll be talking about this Klingon pistol, which is widely known as a Death Sting. This version here was an adaptation of the motion picture version. It's relatively the same, except that it's missing a few component parts that are specific to the films compared to the TV series. This one was featured in Next Generation. The different things about it are, for most of the versions of this Death Sting, for Next Generation, DS9, and Voyager, and some of the later films, is that this tip is made out of plastic instead of the aluminum like this one, as well as these rods here are actual aluminum, but on most of the units that are used on the show, these are actually rounded over acrylic rod. Now the carryovers from the original version of this Death Sting is the handle here, and what's interesting is there's always these glyphs on the side, which are supposed to be Klingon. But now, if the original person who made this pistol for the original films was John Harrington. Now, the modifications that were made to it, I'm not really sure who made all the additional changes, only because it's back and forth. There's a lot of people who claim that they built this and so on. But I'm going to tell you that the original version of this was made by John Harrington. Because if you look here, it says, "I love Sue." And that was John Harrington's girlfriend at the time. Now, a few other features here on this one is also these German helmets. Other people who have recreated this, now that's fans as well as other prop makers, have made these out of just little rounded acrylic balls or shapes. So there's lots of different things, just like the original. This particular piece here isn't this piece. It's another part of another gun. This piece right here is a connector for pipe, like flexible hose that you would stick on there. And you can actually read here, it says 1/4 inch. This is a piece of aluminum rod. I'm not sure what everything else is here. These are wheels from a model. And once again, I know you guys are going to start telling me everything, and that's fine. You guys go right ahead and tell me what it is. This is part of a toy M16, this portion here, from the time period of motion picture. This tip, I was told, was not the original tip that was on the motion picture ones, but on this newer version. Now, when this was being made originally, because once again, I did not make this, but this is the master that we ended up using from Next Generation, from the first season all the way through DS9 and Voyager. And possibly even some of the same pieces themselves were used on Enterprise, but I can't, go through it all, because in some cases props have been reused so many times, it's crazy. But the way we would make these is we would basically cast this piece as a single part, usually with a nut, or sorry, not a nut, but a bolt embedded in this side so that the threads stick out. And we would usually, on, like, say from this side, we would either have a rod in there to hold, just to make it the center, or we would cast the bolt in with the head facing out, that we could then, after this was all cured, we could then crack it out and be able to screw these back together so that they always, when we needed them to be put together, we didn't necessarily have to glue them. Now on some of them we did, some of them we just put a brass rod between the two and glued it together. It just depended on what was necessary for that episode and or what the prop master was requesting. Now as far as the handle here, you can see here these two depressions here, two holes, and the two holes. So it would basically get screwed on in that position. Now, on some of these phasers for Next Gen and DS9, there was a 3/8 of an inch acrylic plate that would be attached from here and sticking out about another 1/4 inch or so, because they wanted it so that it would stand off a little farther, so maybe you could get your finger in to push that button. But it's not really a button. Who knows what it really is? Well, in reality, what it is it's just a jewel cover for a light, for like a light panel for electronics and or anything else. This piece cast in with a nut in it or a bolt, depending on how we were doing it. Once again, assembly ended up becoming much easier when we were using the threaded rods, because now we have a complete phaser in a couple of steps after it's been painted. And then these aluminum rods would, in some cases, have pins put into them and then glued in right there. Some of them were longer, some of them were shorter. It just depends on how much time we had to deal with it at the time. But basically, that's the whole weapon right there. It would be painted for Next Generation DS9 and Voyager. The very first ones of these were painted like a Xenolite ruddy brown primer, but then all next versions for DS9 and Voyager, and a lot of the Next Gen versions was painted with Krylon ruddy brown primer and semi-flat black. And in some cases we would paint these letters here and stuff. Different, it depends on how much time we had and if the prop master actually wanted us to go to the extra effort of painting all of those extra details or not. Because, this would be gold here or silver, depending on what house it was or whatever the prop master said. And once again, aging with an airbrush, getting into all the nooks and crannies, which really helped the look of the piece. As far as I'm concerned, I actually enjoy seeing the Klingon pieces because they're not always have to be so perfectly clean. If you have a nick over here, Klingon props look like they were used. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And if you feel so inclined, please become a patron. Thank you.